Welcome to another patch breakdown video, this time featuring Ray, everyone's favorite Patchworks employee. Sorry, Hannah and Nick.
And everyone else.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that. She's a Patchworks employee.
I do work at Patchworks. Yeah.
If you are watching this video, it means you are a Patreon subscriber and you give us money and you help us keep doing what we're doing. So thank you, we appreciate that. Hopefully at this point you were either at the last modular-nights or you've seen the live stream. Ray played, little dancey, housey kind of set. So yeah, like how would you describe the genre or the style of what you did / what you do?
Yeah, when I'm doing more structured sets, even if I am incorporating the modular, as you're going to see, this is a very structured way of going about modular.
A lot of people don't really do that with modular.
It's very true.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think what, as far as defining the genre that I'm in, it kind of bounces around house, techno, and electro. And within those genres, there's so many subgenres, so it's kind of hard to categorize it. That natural sound.
Because I was gonna say, like, even though it's very like housey, dancey, it doesn't sound as artificial as that genre normally would.
Yeah.
So.
A big part of that is actually comes from my love for field recording and found sounds.
Very cool.
First piece of audio equipment I ever got was a field recorder, and still serves me so well. It's sitting in my backpack right now. I've had it for probably 7 years.
Wow.
It's like gaff taped together at this point, but
it still works.
She's very, reliable. And just going around and recording everything, tapping on things or just fun natural sounds and whatnot.
Can you show us some like that you're using in this
things that
set?
I have in here? Yeah. So let's see if let's just go on to this kick here, which I know is sample 1, so that's going to be really easy to change. So we just go back up here.
Oh, it's kind of hard to do, like
upside down
a
sideways,
little bit.
hair everywhere. But yeah, if we go ahead and go in here and scroll through these samples, you can actually see. Let's see. A lot of these sounds.
Oh, those are all found sounds.
A lot of them are when I have acrylic nails. I'll just go around and tap on different things.
Nice. It sounded really good.
And this is like coins, like just dropping change and clinking around the kitchen.
Okay. Wow.
Mostly.
So you use found sounds less for like ambient textures and more for like actual drums, like the actual percussive hits.
In this set particularly, yes.
Okay.
I do like to go around and do a lot of an actual environment and stretch that out and kind of have that be in the background to kind of put the music in a place. And a lot of the times with the field recordings, there's a lot more thinking into what the sound is than, an audience member would be able to tell. Like I like to take sounds from like a certain day or a way I was feeling that day or something that we were doing and kind of blend little moments of time together to kind of tell the story. So it might not be something that other people are like, oh, that's, she clearly was in Berlin riding around on a bicycle that day.
For you, you're like connecting moments, you're connecting like memories almost.
It's like time, it's like painting with time.
That's pretty. I've actually never heard anyone think about it. That's fantastic.
So I love that stuff. Yeah. So that always is a big part of my percussion and a part of getting into modular and other parts of synthesis and wanting to stay true to like what has kind of always been the core of my sound, even though I make a lot of different genres, is that field recording. So that's why this dig effect was a really important one for me.
Nice. Well, yeah, those sound awesome. Yeah. Speaking of the dig attack, so that's the brain of your set. So you have a MIDI out going to the grandmother. Are you just sending clock to the grandmother? Or
I'm actually programming everything in the dig
so you're
attack.
sequencing the grandmother as well. You're not using the onboard sequencer.
No, sometimes I'll use I'll switch into arpeggiator mode and I'll have it play in addition to hold. But for the most part, this is just on hold, and I'll, having a keyboard in front of me is a way more organic way of laying down a lead or a bass or whatnot. So I'll play it around on there, and then I'll just program it in on the dig attack.
Oh, wow.
Because then with the dig attack sequencer, this would be grandma. With the dig attack sequencer, I can go in and whenever I have triggers of it playing, I can also have it be probability. So like maybe that note will only play 33% of the time,
Right.
or I only want this to come in the transition, so I only want it to play first. I don't want it to play for the rest of the pattern or whatever.
Right.
And so using the sequencing capabilities of the Digitact on there, while it is a little bit tedious when you're actually composing, it's really useful for live performance because
it adds an extra layer of flexibility and makes arranging a little bit easier.
Yes.
And even though you do play very structured sets, like you said, that randomness
it really
can add
helps.
a little bit of more of that unpredictability, that
and
organicness.
Also, like, going into, I was saying it's kind of house techno and electro. With the electro side of things, it's really important, I think, to have that probability and have it not be so on the grid. It's
right. Well, because then it keeps it a little more interesting, more fresh. Yeah. It's not like if you have the same like 4 bars or 8 bars, 16 bars repeating, then having that randomness it helps it be a little more interesting for the audience member.
For sure.
Okay, so you're sequencing the grandmother with the Digitact, and then there's a MIDI through going out of the grandmother.
Yeah,
so that's going to the modular?
Yep. Yeah, so this is just really straightforward. I mean, there's also like not even any patch cables on here now.
Right.
I just want to have just that grandmother sound. I love patching it around and getting really weird at home, but with this I was just like, I know exactly the sound I want. And
Totally. Yeah.
So MIDI out into here, and then through going over to here, and with my keys over here, I am basically just using the Mutant Brain for this set.
Okay.
So the Mutant Brain I have 4 channels that I can send to it. So right now, my Digitact is controlling Platts over here, which is in mostly FM mode for this set.
Okay.
So a good deal of it was bass lines. Really like that FM bass.
Okay.
Someday I'll have a DX7.
Someday.
My bass lines. But yeah, mostly it's in FM. A couple of the patterns it's in chord mode. But when I'm gonna do a set with Platts in chord mode, I actually like to use yarns, because yarns allows me to send mod wheel messages and whatnot, so I kind of get like a free LFO a little bit. Oh shit.
Say all that again about yarns and Platts in chord mode.
Okay, so if I want to use Platts in chord mode, it's a little bit harder to kind of control than the other modes. So like in an ambient set, it would be awesome because you just throw some LFO into the inversions and it's just lovely. But with a more structured set, I need to make sure that it's hitting the right chord at the right time.
So you can like actual make specific chord progressions.
So the cool thing with using Platts and the Digitact and running them together through yarns is that I can use mod wheel messages and whatnot, so I can actually control those types of things from my Digitact.
That's actually very cool. I didn't even think about that as a possibility.
But that's not what we're doing today. Today is really, really simple. I just wanted CV and gate sent into the system.
So then so other than Platts, what other oscillators or voices do you have going on in the modular?
Super simple. It's literally Platts for the FM, and then the NW1 is a wavetable synth from Waldorf. And the cool thing about the NW1 is that I have a Blofeld at home, and so I can design wavetables on it, and then in theory I can load them in and use those in my set as well without having to bring another piece of gear. The wavetable synth is the newest thing that I have in my case, actually. Shouts out to Milo for that one. That was one I was waiting for a while to find it used. And honestly, in general, I just want to say shout out to everyone for making this case possible, because like I got this case from Nick with a few modules in it, and a lot of the other modules in here are either prototypes that someone needed testing on or overflow modules that someone couldn't fit in their case. And so they were just like, you take these for a while. And so it's a bit of a Frankenstein at the moment.
So it's not really like a thought out case.
No.
It's just, I have this module, just throw it in there.
And even the order that things are in right now, I've kind of been, like I've only really been into modular as in owning it, not just playing around with it for about 6 months at this point.
Oh, wow.
And so what I've kind of been playing around with at home is utilizing this massive amount of rack space that I have to kind of find grouping, like a theory of how to place them in different, like within relationship to each other, so that I can kind of just not have to set up. My whole thing is around just like, I want to go into the studio and make music. I don't want to have to set anything up, do anything.
You want your voices to already be patched.
Yes, everything. I just want it there so that when I'm feeling creative, I can be creative and not get stuck kind of doing grunt work.
No, it's super interesting how like even just like module placement within a case actually like really affects your creativity. Like even when I just take the case I have with the modules I have and just move the modules around. Like having like, oh, this oscillator is now next to this LFO, and that weirdly just in my brain just unlocks so many more possibilities, even though like I could have done it before.
No, totally. Yeah, it's not like I don't have the patch cables to fit.
Right.
You know,
it's just visually having different modules next to each other just kind of helps you think about it a little bit more.
So it's in a sorted state at the moment.
No, that's great though.
We're learning.
so is the only thing happening on the modular is just those two voices? Like, is there any like modulation or anything happening?
The dual ADSR is for plats, and then both plats and the NW1 are going into this attenuator, or the LFOs for them are being attenuated rather. So I can affect, the rate of the LFO up here. It's not synced or anything right now. I've been keeping it pretty low, and that's affecting whatever I want actually. So I have some loose patch cables here.
Oh, okay.
When I'm playing, I just have the Dixie's in LFO mode, which the Dixie's a great voice, but with where my case is at the moment, it really needs an LFO more than another voice.
Yeah.
So that's what that's been used for mostly.
So you're doing a little bit of live
patching.
Very
it's
cool.
just simple modulation stuff. So it's nothing scary. It's not like I'm going to plug it in and then something wild and unexpected is going to happen. It's just a little bit of movement.
Totally. Okay, so you have your voices in your modular, your voice from your grandmother, the dig attack is the brain controlling all of it, and obviously you're doing drums as well.
Yeah, percussion is coming from the dig attack. There's a couple non-percussive things happening too, but it's pretty limited. So what I loaded into this project that I played at modular-nights, and I'm working on extending it into an hour-long set, is actually a bunch of samples from when we had a Juno 60 in the shop. And that's the first synth I ever played. And so not the one in the shop, but just like when I was playing the synth for the first time, it was that one. And so when it came in, it was really nostalgic. And I went through and recorded C major, C minor, major fourths and minor fourths, or sevenths. I mean, all on C and all the presets, so that I have those 4 chords.
Wow!
And they're all in the same notes. So when I am in keyboard mode here, it's all. I mean, that's plats, but it's all starting on C. And so since I have those 4 different chords on every preset, I can play a Juno on my dig attack.
No, that's very creative. That's a very cool way to do it. And like, I'm sure that Juno's long gone now.
Yes.
But now you always have it.
Yeah, totally.
And you didn't spend an arm and a leg.
Someday I'll have one. But that's actually something I've done for a long time. When Patchworks was first around, before they even had a store and they were doing the synth meetups, I came with my trusty field recorder.
Wow, cheating the system a little bit. Wow, big plus for working at a synth store. You can take advantage of all these things.
Yeah, I love sampling. I think sampling's so creative. I think that there's
totally.
so much you can do with it.
Your mic.
Oh my god, I think this guy hates me. That's it's fun.
It's all right.
Here we go. Maybe my big knob energy is just too big for this lav mic. There we go.
I feel like you need context for that, but that's okay. Moving on.
Moving on. So Juno samples. Let's see what I have. What pattern am I on right now? Let's see what we got.
So that's the Juno.
Yeah,
all the chord stuff happening in this set. All the chordy
things in this set were Juno.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is on. Let me just make sure that I save my pattern there.
Always important.
Cool. So we're on 5. Let's go through and see what other Juno samples I have here.
Ooh.
I think there's also some Jupiter samples on here too. If we go down. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and this is not the best organization, but.
No, it's all right. Yeah, can you play us just one of the chord progressions you have going?
Yeah, let's see.
No drums or anything else, just the chords.
Reload the pattern here. It's so funny to do this upside down.
I know, it must be super disorienting. that's the Juno.
That's still Juno, yeah. And then
Nice.
Yeah. So it just, I mean, you can't beat the pad sounds of those kinds of things. Absolutely. And with what other things I have ongoing here, it's all very leady. I mean, the plaids can kind of get into pad region sometimes, but it's mostly bass and lead. This is very much a lead and a bass synth. You can throw that spring reverb on all day and it's beautiful, but it's not that like lush kind of sitting in the background. It's more of like an environment that it creates. So, yeah.
Wow, very cool. So then how are because you said these are doing like bass and lead. So how are you're like, you have those LFOs that you can patch in the middle of the set, but how else are you manipulating these sounds throughout the set?
With my fingers.
Yeah. So doing filter cutoffs.
Yeah.
And,
I think that obviously get LFOs to do as much work for you as you can. But there's something about like when you're improvising, which is a lot of the set is I try to set up each pattern as like a pivot point where I could go in a few different directions and then bring it back home and then go to the next one. So it's a pretty keeps it working.
Right. Totally.
But with other kinds of modulation, it's really like feeling where I'm at with the music and like actually physically turning the knobs. With a big setup, the advantage is that I can be controlling multiple things at once, and I'm not so stuck in here where it's all these little details that I'm trying to turn tiny knobs. I mean, it's pretty big knobs.
Yeah, I always tell people the best CV source is your hands, because you have precise control. You know exactly what you're controlling,
and you can have fun with it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's very performance oriented. You don't have to like follow like a string of patch cables to be like, oh wait, what's going on here?
Right.
And so
yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously you said it's a very structured set. You obviously have like different patterns with different elements. So what is your process of figuring out? Like, how do you figure out how to structure this set? Like, you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to start.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to end up. Like, all the stuff in between.
Yeah.
Like, walk us through it a little bit.
I've tried that with that question so many different ways.
Okay.
And I have two ways of going about it now.
Great.
The way that I did it for this set is literally just start somewhere that you like. Once you build the pattern up where as many of these as you can are all going and it all sounds good together. Doesn't mean that they're all going to be playing at once when you're playing out, but you could have any combination of them playing together at the same time and it's going to work.
Yeah.
So once I get everything in there, I copy it, go on to the next one, and I make small adjustments. So if I want to go for a key change, I'll be like, okay, it's going to go for a key change, but I'm going to keep some of the similar elements so that it still sounds connected. If I'm going to go for just different instrumentation or a whole new direction, I just like cut out everything but the percussion and start adding other stuff in there and put that in my patch notes. But really starting, like building one all the way up, copying, pasting it, changing it, copying, pasting that, moving on, it'll stay relative enough that it'll flow. And then the other way that I just started working on a set with is actually going through and programming all the kick drums. And then going through and programming all the snares.
Interesting.
And then going through and hats, and I have an order to it. And then doing melodies last. And because melodies for me personally are like the easiest thing to write and pad stuff, but bass has always been the hard thing for me. So if I do my percussion and then I do my bass lines, then it's like I can do whatever and it's gonna be okay after that. So that's the new one that we're working on.
That's I've never heard anyone compose that. I mean, I'm sure people do, but I personally never heard it.
Yeah,
That's
so
fantastic.
Many ways.
Yeah.
So many ways.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
So like you're not thinking like intro, verse, chorus, verse, bridge. Are you like when you're moving from section to section, like what's your goal? Like, are you trying to like, just keep the vibe going, like keep people dancing? Or are you trying to like?
I wanted to have a little bit more movement in it throughout the set. If you kind of zoom out in the set perspective, I'll think about in the beginning, do I want to start slow, build fast? Do I want to, like, how do I want the tempo to go? That's kind of a big one that I plan out early, actually, because with tempo, you can kind of there's ways to do it where it sounds really awkward to go between low energy and high energy sets, and then there's ways to do it where it sounds way more organic. And with this one, it actually starts out at like, I want to say like 90 BPM or like 91, and it goes all the way up to like 127. So
oh wow, it's pretty wide.
You don't
range.
really notice that during the 15 minutes that I was playing, but it's because it's just slowly building up and building up. So it feels like it's going somewhere.
So for example, like you say, like section 1 is 90, section 2 is like 95, then 100, and we're slowly building up, and so the audience, that's cool, yeah.
Yeah, and then let's see, that's for tempo, and then as far as vibe goes, like if I'm on a pattern, you know, when you're composing at home or whatever, and you listen to the same thing like a million times, and you're like, I know that this sounds good, but I've heard this way too much. So if it's something really bubbly and happy, I want the next section to be a contrast to that. So like something different. It doesn't have to be sad, but like something just they contrast the section before.
Right.
So that you're also, you know, continuing to stay interested.
Right. So you're emotionally trying to take the audience on a little bit of a journey
and then if I'm looking for inspiration, I go back to, well, what field recordings do I have in here?
Right.
Because I feel like
because I'm sure at this point you've amassed so many field recordings that you can just plug them in.
Probably like 2 terabytes.
Good God, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot.
So.
Okay, yeah. So so you have the chords and the drums. Do you have anything else going on the Dig Attack other than? Okay. So as far as like performance, because on the Dig Attack there's a lot of things, you know, like effects that you can use during your performance and all that. So like what do you normally like to do as far as performance on the Dig Attack? I
am at a point with it where I'm using patch notes in that I need to remember, like I'll have a pattern save of how I want the pattern to start, but there are certain orders that I want things to come in from or also exit from because it needs to transition to the next part and sound good. So a lot of it is pattern mutes. And then as far as other modulation, I mean, really simple, just like if you hold this down, then you can affect everything at once, and it goes back to your pattern save when you hit pattern save.
Right.
So it's a lot of improv with that. Okay. So yeah, as far as the Dig Attack, it's really just pattern mutes and doing the like affect all, and also getting clever with LFOs, I guess, is the other big one for me. And like I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I always like to do. Like if I'm playing techno, I like to have something that just comes in that's like a pad or whatever. It's just one tone, and then the LFO kind of like put it on a square wave and have it deck it out so it sounds like
it gives it a little bit of a rhythm.
And then, you know, like little things like that.
Can you tempo sync the LFOs in the Dig Attack? I don't actually know.
So there's workarounds. It's a no, but also
yes.
If you actually go to it and you see how it says BPM 8, it took me like a really long time to actually learn this. So like if we put the speed back up to 0 or 1 rather, that's gonna be at 8 times the BPM. So you can kind of calculate it in your head.
Yeah,
like okay,
this
well
number
then if
is
I do that,
notes, this is 16th.
Yep.
This is 32nd notes. Okay.
So I did
yes
some of
and
that
no.
stuff.
Yes
and no. Yeah,
okay.
It's something you definitely have to do before your set. You can't just be like, let's rein it in to 16 notes here. It's like, no, you either have no LFO or you go into it.
Okay, very cool. So it is kind of synced.
It's kind of synced, but it takes a little bit of brain power.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's the Dig Attack. Run us through like just the grandmother and the voice you have going on the grandmother.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just walk us through it.
Changes. I like to keep my oscillators in not like the very bottom or the very top, because if something's going around in the pattern, I don't want it to like get too low and then I can't go any higher, or get too high and I can't go any lower.
You like to keep it like
as
close to middle C as you can.
Yeah, keep it in the middle there. Like I said, there's literally no patching here. This is just straight grandmother. So
which like you don't need to. It's a great
it sounds great.
By
it's
itself.
So fun to pad around on it though. It's just not always predictable. I think that's actually part of the charm of the grandmother, is that sometimes I'll patch something and then I take it out and I'm like, that's not where it was before I patched this. Like I turn it off and turn it on and it's different. And I'm like,
But for this kind of performance, you do kind of want it
to
be somewhat
as uniform as I can. Yeah,
okay.
Totally. So for this set, it's just a saw wave and a square wave.
Okay, so you're using both oscillators.
Yep, using both oscillators. I will use the noise with the spring reverb for transitions sometimes. I think that's just a really easy, cheap trick that sounds great every time. Just give them a noise wash.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's something different now. And it's very simple.
Yeah.
I'll keep the decay really short on here so that I can actually make use of the slider for the sustain. It's a bit more playable at that point, so that has a bigger difference in what it does. But yeah, and the envelope amount, if I want to get into acid, I just kind of put the resonance in the envelope up.
Of course.
There we go.
Yeah. So I don't know much about the grandmother actually. Does modulation only happen when you patch things, or is there some normal?
There's already normal things.
Okay,
yeah.
so do you have any modulation going on this?
So the cutoff actually is just a little bit happening here, and it's a really slow rate on this one because I just want some, if I put the mod wheel up a little bit, I just want the grandmother to kind of be floating through some different frequencies, as opposed to just, here's that lead and it's still at you at the same, it's still going. Like, just a little bit of variance. So really low rate, and maybe halfway up 12 o'clock on the cutoff, and then like about halfway up the mod wheel, and I can put that up and down as I want. But
can you play for us a little bit, just the grandmother, and then
let's see. Where this is at, I don't even know. Pattern.
Nice little like acidy bass line here. Got that squelchy filter resonance.
Yeah. So it gets taken.
So do you do any like leads or more like textural stuff with this, or is it mostly just this is your bass line, right?
It's bass and leads, and it kind of goes back and forth depending on the pattern.
Same thing with the modular?
Modular, yeah, but going back and forth. They kind of trade off, actually.
Oh, nice.
Because I feel like if I just had this as FM bass the whole time, you'd get real sick of that bass line. And if I just had this as, in its kind of more sing-song register, it would get a little bit shrill after a while. So I feel like kind of, just as I like to kind of change the emotions between patterns, I like to switch around the voices.
I don't know what, that's such an obvious thing, but I've never thought to do that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And you can even go so far as like, in my brain, this is an odd number and this is an even number. Don't know why. So the odd, and this isn't exact in the set, but just like easy ways of keeping track.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So can we hear let's hear just the Platts and then just the Wald. What's that oscillator called?
It's the NW1.
NW1. Okay. So this is Platts.
This is just Platts. I mean, it's really simple here. I think if we get into, sorry, they all want to hang out. I don't know which one is on which pattern. So just a little bass line there.
Okay. And that's more of is that lead coming from the Platts in that pattern?
I think. But that's bass too. It's the same bass line.
Wow, all those sounds, damn.
Those are birds. In Berlin, a lot of the apartment buildings have this like courtyard in the center, and there's these big trees, and then in the morning, the birds, the acoustics, like they're going off all the walls. It's really pretty.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love your use of found sound. That shit's so
it's
nice.
Cool. It's fun. Let's see. It's the combination of upside down town and also.
No, totally.
Is this playing? Yeah. That's more melody.
Okay.
It's up there. There'd be more modulation too, because I just like to have it be really improv-y. So
totally. It's structured, but the elements within that structure a little bit improv. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's hear. I want to hear what the wavetable synth sounds like.
Yeah. So let's see. Let me make sure you turn it up. That is up. Let's see. Probably. It's on.
Also, super unrelated question. Why are those lights purple? On mine, they're green.
Green is for global mutes, and purple
for pattern
is pattern
mutes.
mutes. So I can save my pattern in the state that I want it to start at, and then bring them all in later, and then function reload pattern, and then like move on.
God, I think of all the patch breakdowns we've done, I'm actually learning the most from this one.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
Sometimes
very
a
cool.
simple setup, you know, there's like a lot of theory behind it. So
yeah,
it's like,
no, it's great. It's. I mean, that's why we do these. We like to see how like different people's brains work, and this is very cool.
You said NW1. Oh. It's not super loud. But yeah, it's mostly just playing 1 or 2 notes per pattern.
Okay.
And then I just have it almost as like noise, but it does have pitch.
Right.
So if it's like down kind of in a lower frequency, if it's down in like a lower frequency, it'll definitely just sound like a sub bass coming through, and I'll EQ out like the very, very, very low end of any kick drums or any bass sounds or whatever, so that it's kind of occupying its own sub territory.
Right.
She's singing. But yeah. And then the modulation from the LFO is just going into these different ports here, and they control different knobs, essentially.
Right,
It's really simple. What I was doing with my fingers, I usually have it do with an LFO.
Right.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Really
yeah.
simple.
No, it's cool because the elements I feel like are really simple.
Yeah.
But it's just the way you're composing those elements, the way you're arranging them, and the way you're performing them that makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well,
Thanks.
thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
I think now we'll just, close it out.
Cool.
You can jam on this patch for
Have a
a
little
little
jam.
bit, and
All right.
so we can hear all these things you talked about come together.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
great.
Patreon. Support it.
Subscribe. Velocity.
Hey.
October 5th.